Welcome to a 1 vs 1 between Klops and therxyy. therxyy requested this replay and he started Ampbots and he's going against Klops doing hovers. And therxyy is wondering how to counter or fight hovers on this map. And I think that Ampbots and hovers are kind of balanced on this map. Um, Hovers have the speed advantage generally with the daggers and bolas, so you generally want to be a bit defensive on a map like this. But still, there is not that much room that the hover player can abuse in the middle. Like going around the edges is kind of hard and takes a lot of time, so which gives the Ampbot player a lot of time to react. So I wouldn't necessarily favor hovers on this map. So yeah, usually, and also this map, it's pretty easy to play defensively in the start positions because yeah, you can defend here pretty easily by just plopping down a lotus turret and a lotus turret there. So, and then you're pretty safe against any kind of raiding. Yes, so yeah. You can see here that therxyy is scouting here, but that's the advantage of daggers. If you catch a lone duck out alone like this, it's easily to catch up to it with daggers and just overrun it with and outmass it with daggers. So that's the speed advantage that daggers gives you against the early ducks. Meanwhile, they're both going for pretty economic starts, and yeah, you should do that on this map because yeah, there's a lot of early mexes to take, and it's pretty safe to take and easy to defend. You can see here that Klops chose to go for a engineer commander, and therxyy went for a recon commander that can jump like this, and yeah, you can usually jump. It makes you be able to expand a bit faster, while this commander has a bit more build rate. And Klops is being real defensive, which in hover position, if you're in hover position and you're making this many daggers, you don't really need to be defensive. Like one lotus turret would be enough to cover the entrance, or like one here. So and then you would be pretty safe against ducks if you just continue to make daggers, because then you can just outmass the ducks and work together with your few lotus turrets that you have. So that's really defensive from Klops. Meanwhile, it's hard to, since the hover player is faster with the daggers, it's hard to actually expand in two directions on this map. Yeah, because it's easy to outmaneuver the ducks with the daggers, like you can see here. Because yeah, therxyy didn't have any radar. If we look at the radar view, he only has radar near his commander. Like a good radar position is to make a radar up here on this ridge. Then you will see most of the middle, and yes, you will even be able to see some of this behind the ridges here. But now his ducks was out of position and he lost his expanding column. And that's tricky to do because if you don't have enough like lotus turrets here, yeah, daggers can just turn around, or bolas can just turn around and threaten your commander. And yeah, you see the limpet here is gonna force these daggers away. They cannot dare to run by a limpet. Like if you get a good limpet hit on these daggers, you can easily run up and kill them with the ducks. So yeah, it's a good choice to have a few limpets with your army, or really necessary, I would say. Because otherwise, if you can't slow down the daggers, they can just do some kills and then get away pretty easily. Also defensively against bolas, it's good to have a few limpets. Although limpets, if you try to run into bolas, it's gonna get slowed by the first shot, and then you're probably not gonna get a good hit off on the bolas. You might not even be able to stun, like slow more than one bolas, and that's kind of a waste. So it's hard to use limpets offensively against bolas, but it's a bit easier against daggers, but not too easy. And therx is being pretty, yeah, catching the enemy off here is pretty good usually, especially if you have slower expansion due to being hovers. It's good to be able to like cut off the enemy here and try to prevent this expansion here. Meanwhile, just these 3 ducks is going to be able to prevent this expansion, and that's pretty nice. And now therxyy is being, yeah, the enemy is trying to overrun him. But yeah, having a recon commander makes this much safer, because he can just jump from here into here. And since this terrain is unpathable for the hovers, yeah, the commander has a good escape, and your units has a bit of time to catch up. Like, that's the problem. Like, if you're here and can't jump back, yeah, you're out of positions, and your rest of the armor might also be out of position, and the faster hover units can just swing around and catch your commander out of position. But jumping back there keeps your commander alive in this situation. Meanwhile, you don't have any radar here, so you can't really spot this expansion going there. And halberds, I don't really like them too much against amphipods. They, like, if you are spamming ducks and a few limpets, yeah, the halberds can't do anything really. Yeah, and this is you can like push to the front side, and this keeps the enemy units occupied. So if we look here, did you excess in the metal? You excess a bit. Like, yeah, you have to be careful. If you're just gonna rely on winds, you need to make some more wind really. And yeah, you get some good limpets hits off here. So it's gonna be a pretty even trade here, I think. Yeah, if we look at the attrition, you actually got ahead a little bit from that, so a decent exchange so far. That's the thing, like if Dagger tries to die on top of this many limpets, yeah, you're not gonna make cost. Personally, I prefer to go for, like, I can see you going for a grizzly here, and this is a pretty early grizzly, but yeah, you have some quite a bit of economy, so you can push it out. Meanwhile, you're taking out this expansion, that's pretty good. It's gonna be hard for the hover play to punish this, because yeah, you can just go back and forth with your commander between these riches and protect it with the ducks and limpets. So yeah, personally I prefer to go for bulkheads with ducks and limpets as support. It's kind of a slow push, but it's really hard for the hover player to counter that, I think. And here comes some lone halberds, and halberds, yeah, lone halberds don't do well against raiders. And if they're open, the limpets is just gonna slow them down so much. So yeah, you get a really good slow up there, and yeah, these halberds are basically dead. Should be a really good trade for you. That's the thing, halberds can't really do anything if they're being catched by raiders. But yeah, Klops is still trying to abuse his speed advantages and try to hit it, and try to like outmaneuver you. But yeah, he's not gonna get too much for his trouble really. Yeah, so this is a really early grizzly. But with this economy, it's decent. It's not that hard to push out the grizzly on this map. But still, I think, like, yeah, you might lose a bit of momentum, and now the enemy has switched to bolas. And yeah, that could be a bit harder to like counter with just pure ducks and limpets. You really want to have some like lotus turrets, or yeah, a grizzly is fine though, like you can push against the enemy. But if you're outmaneuvered by the bolas, because yeah, bolas is still reasonably fast, like 96 Elmo speed versus 90, so they're even a bit faster than ducks. And if the ballers catch the ducks out of position, it's really hard to punish it, even if you have some limpets around. Limpets are really only good if the enemy is if you're defending and the ballers have to run in to actually kill what they're going for. But yeah, a grizzly is survivable, and yeah, you can see here that yeah, you're getting a pretty good slow there, and then yeah, you're killing these cost effectively. Meanwhile, the enemy is pouring in here, but is it enough? You switch into archers. Archers are of course decent against hover. Usually I prefer to just stick to ducks and limpets because they're faster, but archers do decently in defense, really, if you're not being outmaneuvered too much. And you can see here that these ballers are probably not going to do much. They kill a few wins, but that's not much value. He isn't really making cost here. It's getting some expansion and slowing you down a bit. That's due to you moving out here, which might be a decent choice, although in this situation, if the enemy spots the grizzly, they're probably just going to push out some lances, like lance artillery, and they're going to be able to shoot down your grizzly quite a bit. And you should be expecting lances, so really you want to have your grizzly on high health, so you don't get it's harder to take down the grizzly with lances. Like this grizzly would be 2-shot by a lance, and that's, well, if it had full health, yeah, you would need 3 shots to kill it. So yeah. Meanwhile, if you were paying a bit more attention here, you could be building lotus turrets here and killing these. It's good to have like a radar here as well, because then you can you can see the enemy commander movement and such like that, and you can see if the enemy is sending radar to get this position and stuff like that. And here, grizzly, you gotta be careful. You don't want to take too much damage on it, because yeah, you don't want to be a one-shot for a lance if it just suddenly appears. So you really want to be repairing your grizzly in this situation. Like, you might be able to push in here. And yeah, this is pretty even. Like, if you were just sending ducks here, maybe killing these lotus turrets and forcing out these daggers could be pretty good. But yeah, here comes the lance, and the second lance is gonna be here anytime now. And your grizzly is really low. Like, you really want your the lance fired at ducks there, taking out 3 of them. These lances are actually on fire grill, and it's even gonna fire at it's not gonna fire at radar dots at least. But here you can see you're well spotted, and yeah, now you're just a one-shot, and here's the other lance. And it looks like the enemy might sacrifice the daggers to kill this grizzly, finish it off. Yeah, if you had repaired it earlier, the enemy wouldn't have been able to do that. So yeah, repairing the grizzlies is a must against lances, I think. Just try to keep your grizzlies healthy and don't lose a lot of health on them. But still, in this position you're taking most of the map, and yeah, you're in a pretty good spot. However, yeah, you're gonna access a bit of metal here. Yeah, you're lacking a bit of build power next to your factories. Really, and you're starting to reclaim at the same time as well. Yeah, but anyway, this is where, like, if you're making grizzly like this, you're probably gonna force the enemy to make lances, and then when you lose the first grizzly, yeah, you're kind of in an uphill battle, because you're gonna face the enemy already has like 2 lances out in the field, and you have like nothing really to punish it, and the next grizzly is gonna take fire from these lances, and that's gonna be hard to like counter. So yeah, if you go for earlier bulkheads and limpets instead, yeah, the enemy has been spamming lotus turrets all day, and they're useless. If you just get 2 bulkheads out in a position like this, yeah, you can shoot down these positions. But on the other hand, now that the enemy already have lances, yeah, they can also kind of shoot down your bulkheads if they just get line of sight on them. So bulkheads aren't, if the enemy already has quite a few lances, yeah, even bulkheads can struggle in this position to counter it. So yeah, but you're still having a good, but you still haven't built enough energy One thing I would recommend, like like wind is good up here, 0.4 minimum, but 0.4 minimum isn't reliable. So you want to like Klops here has done, he has smoothed out his economy with a few solar collectors, or you should simply overproduce energy. Like if you draw lines down here, it's pretty easy to overdrive these early. Like it's easy to defend this position and then just draw some lines of wind generators. It's pretty good actually, because yeah, then you're gonna have, even if the wind goes slow, you're gonna have enough energy to carry on and building, but then you're also gonna get quite a bit of overdrive when the wind is good. So yeah, that's the thing I would recommend if you want to stay on winds, is to overbuild wind a bit. But instead you went for a fusion reactor, which is reliable income. Yeah, it's gonna give you a lot of income. Enough income for the rest of the game probably. Yeah, and you're coming up with grizzlies, and if you keep the grizzlies healthy, they're pretty good, in a pretty good spot. Another thing you could consider is like if you want in the late game when you're facing off against lances like this, multiple lances. Yeah, you should probably get like a cloaker, since you have a fusion reactor. You have enough energy for that. So if you get like a cloaker and then morphs it into a mobile cloaker, yeah, the enemy is gonna have a hard time like targeting your grizzly and knowing exactly where it is. So yeah. Meanwhile, you're cleaning out some more expansion from the enemy, and that's pretty good. You're losing attrition, but on the other hand, you have so much more metal income at this point from all this reclaim, yeah, and even a bit more expansion here. So yeah, I don't think late game grizzlies are that bad against lances, even though it might feel hard to get the kill on the lances, and it might feel like if the enemy has like 3 lances, you are afraid that they're gonna one-shot you. In this situation, the enemy just has 2 lances. If you just keep your grizzlies really healthy, they're not gonna be able to one-shot them. But yeah, I would recommend getting a cloak in a situation like this. Like there's a thing, a grizzly with 600 range. It has more range than It has more range than line of sight of units like Scalpel and most other units. Like yeah. Like the Scalpels and Lotusers, they don't have enough line of sight to actually to spot the enemy grizzly. And that means that if you're going in just against like Scalpels without any daggers that has enough line of sight to scout to spot the grizzly, yeah, then it's actually pretty hard to actually get a kill, like to get Lance's focus on the grizzly. And especially if you then add a cloaker to the situation when you have like 2-3 grizzlies, like in this situation, yeah, the enemy is gonna struggle to keep line of sight, and they're gonna be forced to like sacrifice halberds or daggers constantly to keep the line of sight on the grizzly. And here you run into the Scalpels a bit not unnecessarily really. You probably want to use attack more move in a situation like this. Like you want to stay on the max range of whatever you're trying to kill. Like if the enemy had the lances here and do you have any radar to actually spot the movement? Yeah, you have radar to spot the movement of this force. Yeah, if you're just wary, and yeah, like you seem to be pretty wary of, like, you don't want to run into these lances. And you're staying just out of range of these lances. Meanwhile, the lances are trying to go for your commander, and they even enable fired radar to try to get and kill on the commander. But yeah, lances are really inaccurate, so it's really unlikely that they're gonna be able to kill a commander with firing at radar loss. And here you're able to get a good surround on these units, and you might just be able to get these lances, and that would be pretty good for you, because then the grizzlies can start doing work here. And the enemy, yeah, you get both of the lances, that's pretty good for you, because then your grizzlies aren't as threatened. And yeah, you run into these Scalpels a bit too much, that's gonna take a lot of damage. That's a reason why you should be using attack move and automatically skirmish against the enemy. Because here you might even lose a grizzly here. Yeah, you lose a grizzly. You didn't really need to lose here. If you had just used a fight move, the grizzly would have automatically been staying at max range to these scalpels. And even though scalpels, they're a little bit faster with 62 versus 45 almost per second, they're gonna struggle to catch up to a grizzly really. And if you then have some ducks and or limpets to run in, yeah, the scalpels can't really catch a grizzly. So yeah, I really recommend using fight command against scalpels or yeah, in this situation you should really be using it. Yeah, another thing, yeah, here you're not reacting. Even if you're trying to react fast, it takes so much attention that you don't really want to, that you don't need to spend. If you're just using attack move, yeah, they're gonna be skirmishing on their own. And if your grizzlies are on like healthy, that they can take like 1 or 2 shots from a lance, yeah, then you only need to be worried once the enemy comes out with lances again. It took quite a while for Klops to rebuild his lances, so yeah, and that gave your grizzlies time to do some work. But yeah, you could probably have not lost that one grizzly. And still, you're having no conches out on the field to actually repair the grizzly. Like just getting a commander and like 2-3 conches to repair the grizzlies would be good, I think. Then you can be pushing this, like the enemy has 2 lances. But as long as the enemy has like less than, if the enemy just has 1 lance, you can kind of push against that if you keep your grizzlies healthy. And then if you notice the enemy got 2 lances, yeah, you have to be a bit more careful. If you like keep your ducks close to your grizzlies and let the grizzlies auto kite at max range, yeah, and then your grizzly is gonna stay healthy and you can be able to take 2 shots from lance and then retreat it and repair it. So that's a thing I think that you could be doing all this time before the lances come out. Then again, now the enemy has like 3 lances and you have no cloaker here to keep your grizzlies safe. On the other hand, Klops is opting to keep his lances on fire at will, which means he's not going to be able to like focus fire your grizzlies. Yeah, you can see you're still quite a bit ahead, but you also accessed quite a bit of metal there when you were reclaiming and didn't have enough energy. And the enemy is raying a bit, that's pretty good from the enemy. A Lotus turret or 2 there could probably have prevented that from happening. Like building a Lotus turret on this ridge is pretty good usually. And you're going for Liko, and that's a pretty good choice. Like the enemy has such a defender position that if you try to use ravens, yeah, they're gonna struggle to get in and get a kill against all these Lotus turrets, because you're gonna take some damage from all these Lotus turrets and pickets, and yeah, the attrition is gonna be pretty bad. So going for Liko in this situation is pretty good, because you're likely to be able to these lances on the edges are gonna go in and be able to kill off the lances one by one. So yeah, Liko is a pretty good choice in this situation. Still, you could also have been making a cloaker as well in this situation. Yeah. So let's see the first Liko hit. These Scalpel doesn't really have enough. Oof, you take quite a bit of damage there, but you survive. Like Lancer was on fire at will and they almost got your lance. But you got a good hill, you killed the lance, and yeah, you almost made cost in that first run basically. I think you made cost in that run. So even though lances, scalpels and daggers aren't really, yeah, daggers don't really have the range to shoot it. And here you're trying to go in with the Grizzly. Oh, but the enemy sends a counter stun with the Thunderbird, so they might be able to punish this Grizzly when he walked in there. But actually, your Grizzly, he was too greedy. He was trying to go in too hard, and your Grizzly actually killed both the lances in one shot. So that was nice for you. Like, Klops didn't stay back enough. Like, you might look at the range of 600 versus 1000, but actually that's not... And you give up. You should not have given up in this position. If you look at the armor value here, you can see that you have 7,720 armor value, while the enemy just had 2,800. You were far ahead in armor value. The enemy had nothing on the field. You just killed their 2 lances, and there's no more lances on the way. Your Grizzlies would have a field day. You had like 2 Grizzlies, and then and then your Lico would have a field day because the enemy didn't have an AA. They didn't have any bombers. They had 2 napalm bombers. You could have pushed on and just won the game from here. You were like 4,000 value ahead in total value. The enemy mostly had these like defensive value. They had a lot of defenses, but yeah, those defenses would have been useless against your Lico and your Grizzlies. They would have been able to take it down in no time, and then you could have reclaimed all of this. So yeah, you should really have kept on playing, and you would probably have won. So GG.